Good afternoon, everybody, and a very, very warm welcome to this afternoon's session. I'm really delighted to have been asked to chair this session. My name is Ruth Taylor. I'm the Vice Principal for Education here at the University of Aberdeen. And before I do some more in-depth introductions, I just want to very quickly bring our 5 amazing mentors onto the screen so that they can wave to you and welcome you to this afternoon's meeting. Hello everyone, thank you so much for being here. Really good to see you. You will, everybody who's in the room, you will have the opportunity to hear a lot more from our mentors, and they'll do some formal introductions later. So we'll see the mentors in a moment. So without further ado, just to reiterate the warm welcome, it's fantastic that you've all come along to this session this afternoon, and I know that you'll all have different reasons for being here. I want to start off just briefly by talking a little bit about International Women's Day, and I'm sure that the fact that you're here, that you all know a reasonable amount about that, but I just wanted to sort of provide a little bit of context before we come on to thinking about the theme and about mentorship more generally. So International Women's Day has been celebrated across the world since the 1900s, so it's been around for some time now. Originally, its aim was to provide a forum for women to campaign for equality and women's rights, and I'm sure that that sentiment remains familiar to all of us still. However, over time it has evolved, and now on the 8th of March every year, thousands of events right across the world recognise the progress that have been made, inspire women and celebrate women's achievements, which is an amazing thing for us. And it's so wonderful actually during this week to know that we are in a collaboration with women right across the world in celebrating women. This will be the University of Aberdeen's 8th year celebrating International Women's Day. Yes, it's our first virtual celebration, but do you know what? It means that we can bring more people into the discussions, and I'm very much looking forward to this interactive session. There will be opportunities for all of you in the room to ask questions and to get involved. So the theme, the 2021 theme, well, we've got a week-long programme of events, and I hope that you've been able, some of you at least, have been able to attend some of those over the course of the week, and there's more to come. And the theme this year, as you know, is Choose to Challenge. A challenged world is an alert world. Individually, we're responsible for our own thoughts and actions all day, every day, but I do want to frame that in a moment, but I just want to talk a little bit about our responsibilities in terms of our thoughts and actions. We can all choose to call out gender bias and inequality. We can, of course, all choose to seek out and celebrate women's achievements. And collectively, we can all help to create an inclusive world. And the framing around Choose to Challenge is that with challenge comes change. And so the ask is that we all choose to challenge. But I do want to say that at the same time, we all know that for some women, it is difficult to challenge, perhaps for their own circumstances, from a personal situation or a professional situation. And I know that myself from my own experiences, that I haven't always felt able to challenge appropriately when I've really needed to. And that's one of the reasons why I think that those of us who feel able to should support others in order to help them to challenge where they need to. And I think that that's where mentorship can come in. I've had a number of mentors over the years, and they're all very precious to me still. Most of them have been women. I've only had one male mentor, but I've got some wonderful women in my life who have helped me in all sorts of different ways. They've helped me with my confidence. They've enabled me, I think, to grow as a person, both from a professional perspective, but also from a personal perspective, and helped me to overcome some challenges in my life. And actually, they've supported me to challenge. What have they supported me to challenge? Well, I've had experiences where I've needed to challenge pay as a woman, and they've helped me to do that and to do that successfully, not here, elsewhere. They've supported me to challenge around working approaches in certain situations. And I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of that, but actually I needed somebody to talk to about the circumstances in my workplace in that situation. And they've helped me to think through how to manage that and how to come out the other side of it stronger and successfully. And actually, they've more generally helped me to grow my voice. And I do hope that as you hear these amazing women that I've already talked about, when they talk to you about their experiences, that I think you will see that there's opportunities for all of us to grow our voice and to be heard. And I think for me personally, that's where mentorship has been so absolutely crucial. Just a couple of housekeeping rules or suggestions. Post any questions you have on the Q&A function, please, and we'll manage those. I'll keep my eye on it. You'll see me glancing over here, and that's what I'm doing there. We won't duplicate questions. If one's been asked, we'll just deal with that. If you post in the chat, we won't be able to manage those because we can only manage one screen, or I can only manage one screen. And I will absolutely endeavour to get through as many of the questions as I possibly can. So I'm going to ask everybody to come up on the screen, and then I'm going to start by introducing myself, and then I'll be handing over to each of the mentors in turn. It's really good to have some company on the screen. So as I started by saying, my name's Ruth Taylor. I'm currently Vice Principal for Education at the University of Aberdeen, but I'm just going to provide a little bit of my own background. I'm a nurse by background. I worked in clinical practice for about 15 years before coming into higher education. And we're in a university. I know that not everybody who's here today is a university student or a university employee. But I do want to say that I came late to higher education. I did my degree in my 30s. At the time, if I'm honest, it was a means to strike out on my own. I was in a very unhappy situation and I had 2 small children, and I wanted to find a way to, through choice, to be a single mum. And I knew that for me, education was one of the ways that I could achieve that. And I've had the most amazing career, both in nursing and in higher education. I actually worked down the road at Robert Gordon University for quite a number of years while I was bringing my kids up. And I got my own education there. I got my doctorate. And we've been asked to talk about what we're most proud of. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is earning my professorship. I remember getting the call on a train one day to hear that I'd been successful. And it was really an amazing achievement, I think. And it was based on work that I'd done nationally and locally around the student experience, and some work that I'd done in Malawi and various other things. I moved south for 7 years to be a dean in a faculty of health, education, medicine and social care. And of course, the students have always remained at the forefront of what I am passionate about. But actually the staff came to the fore for me there. And the thing that I'm most proud about achieving there was a transformation in the culture that I inherited, and the way that that transformation through compassionate and values-based leadership with my team really made the faculty go from strength to strength. Recently here, you can imagine with an education portfolio that I've had a lot to do around helping the university move to online and blended learning, and that's been a team effort and it's been amazing. And I'm now really excited and I use the word again, passionate to be working on race equality as one of the leads for race equality in the university, a really, really crucial area, and we are taking action around that and we will make a difference. Final point, my personal achievement, it sounds very corny, but my daughters are my personal achievement. They're amazing young women and I'm just so proud to have them in my life. And actually the mentorship that I've had has allowed me and enabled me to do some of those things that I've just described there. Without further ado, I'm going to move over to Michelle. And Michelle, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi everybody. I'm Michelle Handforth and welcome to my kitchen. I'm afraid I didn't have enough Wi-Fi to get the absolutely lovely background, but here you are. Welcome to my home. And Ruth, thank you very much for the opportunity to meet everybody today. And also, it's so inspirational hearing your story. So thank you so much. Hopefully the dog won't bark and hopefully my husband won't come and make a coffee. I've told him to keep out the kitchen until we've had a chance to finish our session together. So I'm the Chief Executive of Aberdeen Harbour Board. That is Britain's oldest business. We were established in 1136. So we're over 900 years old, or certainly nearly 1,000 years old, which I'm extremely proud of. I'm the first and only ever female chief executive in the history of the harbour. So that is nearly 1,000 years for them to make the right decision and appoint a lady to run Britain's oldest business. So I'm quite proud of that. In terms of my background, I started life, I did a law degree when I left school and went to the bar and was qualified as I qualified as a barrister. And this is showing my age because I'm, 58. At the time I went to the bar in the late 80s, there were only 600 graduates qualifying at the bar, and of which of the 600, only 10 were women. So I've seen over the 35 years I've been in business just huge transformational changes on opportunities for women to go into professions that, in my mother's era were just closed to them. So that's been a fascinating journey. And I've gone on to have a very interesting, diverse international career. And I went from a legal profession working for British Airways in their aircraft leasing department years and years ago. And that took me into a very extensive career in the airline industry. So I worked for 17 years in the airline industry, which took me into all corners of the world. So I was very lucky to be able to travel, and that's been a very special part of my life. So to see what's happened in the pandemic to the aviation industry has been heartbreaking for me, having been part of that, and it being an instrumental part of forming who I am and taking me into transport. So I've worked in the US, I've worked in Australia, I've worked in India, I've worked in Europe, and the bulk of my career has been in the transport sector. So my husband always jokes, you've done everything I've done: planes, trains, ferries, railways. I haven't done buses and I haven't done roads yet, but hey, who knows where life's going to take you. And I've also operated in the financial services industry. So I was the retail director for Aviva in their life business and set up Aviva Direct, which now serves 32 million customers in the UK. So I've been very, very lucky. I suppose the two most exciting jobs I've ever had in my life were running Sydney ferries in Sydney Harbour for 4 years. One of my proudest achievements there was that I was able to be the first employer in Australia to employ an Aboriginal female. That in that culture, women working in the Aboriginal community is very rare, and it takes a lot of ritual and approval from elders for women to enter the workplace. But we were the first Australian company to employ. Actually, we ended up employing 4 Aboriginal deckhands on our ferries. So super proud of that. And then the most exciting job I've had is running a helicopter offshore business here in Aberdeen. So I ran Babcock Offshore Helicopters for 3 years before I moved to the harbour. That was super exciting and quite risky. So I think just to sum up, because I'm conscious of time, I'm very, very lucky. I'm on a number of other boards. So I'm vice chair of the Scottish Council for Development and Industry. I am a board member of the British Ports Association, and I'm a board member of Opportunity North East. So it gives me a really good look through into other companies, and it makes me realise that I'm not alone, and it doesn't matter where you are in life. Everybody has the same fears and insecurities. It doesn't matter if you've got a fancy job title. It comes down to who you are, as a person, and we all are more aligned and linked than you can possibly imagine. So that's me. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much. Jamala, can I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm really, really excited to be here, excited to speak to you guys. Just feel like events like this are really, really important. I feel lucky to be here. Just listening to Michelle's intro, I'm just excited to hear what some of the other speakers have to kind of share and give to some of the audience members that we have here today. But I'm Jamala Osman. As you can tell from my accent, I'm from London, East London to be specific. I am a social entrepreneur. So currently what I do is I consult and I help organizations, companies, find young talent. So help them with their strategies in terms of attracting young talent, specifically diverse talent from disadvantaged backgrounds. And I do a lot of work currently with young people. So right now, today I'm in a school. I'm in a room, all the windows and doors have to be open, and it is freezing in here, guys. Hence why I got my jacket on. But yeah, this is the world that we're living in currently, but this is what it is. So my story, my journey is quite unique in a sense. Went to a state school, didn't necessarily have the best start to life. I lost my mum when I was around like in year 9. I got kicked out of my father's house shortly after. Grew up around the care system. Well, I grew up on the estate. There was a lot of kids that just, were like me, didn't know what they wanted to do with their life, didn't know what they wanted to do with themselves, and just spent time in ways that they didn't necessarily know that they were spending their time wasting, if that makes sense. So some of my friends or people that I grew up with made some really bad choices, and it shows in terms of how their lives kind of turn out now. Not to say that they're bad people, but just the circumstances and the environment just meant that they made some really bad choices, unfortunately. But I kind of consider myself a little bit lucky in a sense, because I was going through so much like hurt and like my home life and stuff like that, missing my siblings and stuff like that. I kind of, like my depression in a sense kind of saved me, because what happened is I isolated myself from everything around. So I internalized a lot of things, but I learned a lot, and going through that process and with my own mental health and stuff like that taught me a lot. So by the time I hit 16, 17, mentors really played an important part of my life. One of my biggest mentors at the time was my football coach. Being a young lady trying to play football as well, had his own challenges in the school when the boys didn't want to play with you, but managed to get into a semi-pro team. So I was playing for Leyton Orient at the time. And my coach she was amazing in terms of just helping me realize my potential, build my confidence and stuff like that. And then applying that back in school. So I went from having probably the worst mock exam grades, so like E's, U's, just set to fail, to actually eventually when my GCSE grades come out, I got top 5%. So I ended up getting 7 A's, 4 B's, which was just amazing. Managed to do my A-levels as well. At the time, my twin sister and my younger brother, we were kind of in contact again. We was living together at the time, and I didn't want to, like, I spent a couple of years away from my family. I didn't want to go to university. Didn't really fancy going all the way up to Aberdeen, for example, to go to uni away from my family. So I had to make a decision, make a choice. So I decided to just go into full-time work. At the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I applied for everything. I was just one of the confident people that just applied for I don't know where I got it from. I think I got it from football, but I just applied for everything and failed about 15 interviews. But the first interview, you're not, if you haven't done something before, you're never going to be good at it the first time. So I didn't take it personally. By the time I got to my final interview, which was a Barclays interview, and that was for a school leaver program, so a scholarship essentially where they pay for your degree and you join their retail development program. We joined the retail development program, and I kind of worked my way up from there, and I managed to actually get that role. Got my university sponsored, become one of the first bank managers in the UK as well. So the program essentially was to get you up to management standard by the time you graduate. So I got to management standard in the first year and a half, and by the time I was in my third year, I actually got given my own branch in Harbour Garden. So I become the youngest bank manager in the whole country, running one of the highest value branches in central London for that particular company as well. So in terms of like people, so Hatton Garden is the diamond district of central London. So guys, I'm digressing, but this is my story and I'm kind of proud of it. So like, that's my proudest achievement, is actually becoming one of the youngest bank managers. And I went into mortgages, and then I decided to leave because at the time I was doing a lot of talks and speaking to a lot of young people. I still live in the same area that I live in, And it was just like, after the first couple of years, sorry, that's the school bell. After the first couple of years, it kind of gave me a bit of confidence and a sense of pride when I go into schools and tell them that I'm a young bank manager, and I'm a female, and I'm a person of color from a disadvantaged background. All the kids would be like, wow, this is amazing. And then after doing that for so many years, the novelty of that wears off. And then you kind of realize that there's a problem here if I'm still the only person or still the only role model person that looks like this, that's doing this kind of role. So yeah, I decided to leave in 2018, set up my consultancy. So worked with a number of brands, helping them with their recruitment strategies, did my TED Talk in 2018, from the block to the bank, graduated from university as well, which was amazing, and did all of these things. And now in terms of the pandemic, we're just adjusting, we're just adapting, and we're working. So yeah, that's my story. And that's it, guys.
Jamala, thank you so much. Thank you so much. 2 down and I'm already feeling majorly inspired here. Alethea, can I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Alethea Madgett, and thank you so much for having me. It's just amazing sitting here and listening to these incredible stories. I am a research fellow at the National Decommissioning Centre, and I'm studying the marine ecosystems associated with oil and gas structures in tropical waters, so focusing on Thailand and Australia currently. I've always enjoyed science, right from dissecting a daffodil in primary school. I absolutely hated every other subject in primary school, like maths, English, everything. So I was quite happy and relieved to find something I actually quite enjoyed. This developed through the academy, and I went on to do an undergraduate degree in forensic and analytical science. So this was focusing on crime scene investigation, analysis of evidence in a laboratory, and law as well. So it was a nice mix. During our 3rd year, we got to have a case where they set up a fake murder scene in a cottage near the university. And we got to sort of analyze everything ourselves and defend our findings in court, which was a lot of fun. During this time, I'd actually started scuba diving, which kind of opened my eyes to how beautiful the ocean even is in the North Sea, which just kind of, it blew my mind at the time. I thought it was just going to be grey and murky with sort of a single fish. So it was a nice surprise. So this sort of sparked an interest in marine science. It led me to do my honours project at Marine Scotland Science Laboratory in Aberdeen. And from this, I didn't do a master's. I went straight from an undergraduate to a PhD in marine ecotoxicology, which was certainly a shock. And during my final year, I got a job as environmental consultant at Exodus Group, which is definitely probably one of the most challenging years of my life, just sort of trying to juggle the two. I spent a year and a half in this role, which sort of made me realize I wanted to focus on marine ecosystems surrounding the structures that I was writing up and I was studying, and I wanted to return to academia, which again was something I never thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to be happy as a consultant and stay here forever, but it goes to show even in a year how much sort of people can change their minds very quickly, and that's completely okay. And that led me to this research fellowship. I've been incredibly lucky with my path. I've had lots of support at home and through school, especially from mentors. Opportunities wise for women, things are improving, but I mean, recent published statistics from the United Nations shows that 30% of researchers are women and only 12% of members of national science academies are women. So we've still got a long way to go. Yeah, I think that's me.
Alethea, thank you very much. And I've heard the word lucky 2 or 3 times already. And I think I would just like to say that I know that it's more than luck, that it's about talent and character and determination and so on. But I know why you say it, but we need to own our success too. Jessica, over to you.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I would just like to say, like the others, thank you so much for having me today. It's going to be a really inspiring conversation, I think, today from what we've heard so far. Yep, so to introduce myself, my name is Jessica Gomez-Banderas, and I possibly don't have as lengthy or as exciting a career path to explain so far, because I'm still in the very, very early stages of my career, which I guess might be nice for some of you. If you're in a similar position to myself, I might be able to relate to you guys. And I'm currently still studying, actually. So I'm born and bred in Aberdeen, and I started my academic career by carrying out a Master of Chemistry degree at the University of Aberdeen. And then after I finished my degree, I thought, well, I really enjoy research, but there's lots of opportunities in industry. What path do I want to take here? So I did think a PhD for me to continue my research would be really fab. So I was looking for PhDs online. And to be honest, there wasn't a lot of opportunities at the time which really drew me in. And I felt, yes, this is something that I really want to research, something that I really want to study. And actually, during my final year of my studies, I got to do an amazing placement, an Erasmus placement, where I went abroad for 4 months to Naples in Italy, which was absolutely fantastic. I got to carry out research in a lab there. And when I came back and I was finishing my studies, I thought, do you know what? Maybe I don't want to stay in Aberdeen forever. Maybe I want to branch out and go somewhere else in the world. So someone that I'd met in Naples had actually moved to Malta, which, if you haven't heard of Malta before, it's a tiny, tiny little island below Italy, kind of between Africa and Greece. I'd never been to Malta before, but the person that moved there for a job told me, look, there's an opportunity in the company I'm working for. Maybe you'd like to come and join us since you're graduating. And I thought, what the heck, let's go to Malta. Never been there before, never lived away from home. What have I got to lose? I might as well do it now. So I was 21, I think, and I just packed up everything, moved to Malta by myself, and started a job as a quality control laboratory analyst in a pharmaceutical company. Kind of the beginning of my chemistry career. But then it's when you move away to a country by yourself, sometimes things can get a bit lonely. Sometimes you begin to miss your family. For me personally, because I think I never lived away from home before. So I was beginning to think maybe I actually want to move back home at this stage. Not everyone has the same experience as me. Other people thrive moving away by themselves and have the most amazing time. And actually, there was a PhD opportunity that came up at the University of Aberdeen with the National Decommissioning Centre. And I thought, everything just seems to be aligning really nicely here. I wanted to do a PhD. I want to move back home now, and this perfect PhD opportunity has come up. So that's where I am now. I'm currently in my second year doing my PhD at the National Decommissioning at the University of Aberdeen. And my PhD project is based in chemistry and biology, and I'm looking at trying to find natural compounds from natural sources, so particularly from marine organisms, to prevent fouling. So that's like the attachment of organisms to subsea structures. So to try and find a natural, environmentally friendly, toxic solution to oil and gas problems. Thank you.
Jessica, thank you so much. That sounds absolutely fascinating. It really does. Thank you. Pamela, last but definitely not least, I ask you to introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, I'm Pam Cumming from the Business School at the University of Aberdeen. Like everybody else, I'd like to thank Ruth and Lynn and all the team behind making today happen. It's been an amazing event so far. I'm feeling quite inspired hearing these stories, and I look forward to what's still to come. To tell you a little bit about me, I've worked at the university for a number of years, but my role at the moment is Schools Engagement Officer. That sees me delivering workshops, quite often on campus, but usually out at schools. At the moment, delivering online to pupils that are at home or in schools, letting them know what happens at a university, why people come to university, what it looks like, raising aspirations, raising awareness. That's what I do now, and I deliver workshops. I've got a business theme that allows the kids to have employability skills at the end of it and make the most of them. But that's not what I've always done. When I was at school in Stonehaven. I was a really shy, not at all confident kid. I cried a lot. I was so shy, it was painful. And I really didn't know what I wanted to be. But it was my teachers that really inspired me. And I went to do the Young Enterprise Scheme. I was personnel manager in the Young Enterprise Scheme. And that's where I found my niche. And that was where I decided that my career was going to be with a business theme. My careers advisor told me, because I was good at secretarial studies, that I would be a medical secretary. And I went along with that. I never ever thought I'd get into university, but I did. And I went and I studied a degree in commerce, which covered a bit of secretarial, but there was a bit of law and accountancy, economics, for example. I really enjoyed my university days. And then when I graduated, it wasn't an easy time to get jobs. So I temped for a while just to see what I liked and what I didn't like doing. I finally found a job at the university in 1993. So it does show I've been at the university quite a long time, and I've never left. And I started off as a secretary, just like my careers advisor pretty much said. I started off as a secretary, but my degree helped me have the skills to become a senior secretary. And then I was an office manager, I've been a PA, I've been events, I've done a number of different roles. And more recently, I moved to the business school, and I was still PA, but I developed an interest in school engagement and did some market research to see what could we do with schools to inspire pupils, inspire our future generation. And that led me into the role that I'm in now. But with young enterprise being so important in my life, I mean, it really was a focus. It made me come out my shell. I'm now on the board for Young Enterprise Grampian, and I feel like I'm giving Young Enterprise something back. I'm a finalist for the Northern Star Awards, which has been a very proud moment for me. And I just love my job. And I think that's one of the most important take homes for everybody. If you enjoy your job, it's not hard work, you love it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, that's all been amazing. We've only got half an hour. And so what I'm going to encourage people to do is to pop some questions in the sidebar. I do have some pre-prepared, but I'd love if we could hear your voices this afternoon. So I'm going to start with a question to the whole panel. I'm going to ask us to be quite brief around this so we can pick up on some others. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to get the COVID question out of the way. What have you learned about yourself over this past year during the pandemic? And I'm going to start with Jamala.
Oh, I have to go first. Wow, I've learned a lot. Just because of time, I'll just be quick. I just learned that I can do anything. And with a lot, like obviously I had a lot of personal challenges and stuff like that, but just to have a bit of fun and stuff. I learned how to do a handstand, and I could never do, I was terrified of even doing a cartwheel. But best believe last year, I spent all of that time in my house every single day watching videos and tutorials, and I managed to do a handstand. And then I managed to do push-ups. And now I'm working on pull-ups, and the next one's going to be a backflip. Basically, what I've learned in this lockdown with time and my mental, with time and mental aspiration, anything is possible.
Thanks, Jamala. Just before I go to the next person, if you've got a question, can you put it in the question and answer part, not in the chat, please? I'm going to go to Jessica next. What have you learned about yourself in the pandemic, Jessica?
So I think for me, because my project is primarily lab-based, and during the initial lockdown, I was just completely working from home, things did slow down quite a lot. And I think I learned that potentially before I was working too hard almost and not giving myself enough of a break, not taking enough time out for me and to switch off. So yeah, this time's actually been really useful for me to just learn, okay, you need to schedule time in for yourself when things get too much. Don't burn yourself out by working Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. Everyone needs a break. Whenever you need a break, take one. And that's a really important thing that I learned during this time. So I'm very grateful for that, actually.
Thanks, Jessica. Pam.
I have learned a number of different things about myself. In terms of the exercise, as Jamala mentioned, I realised that I can't hop like I used to hop. I put a hopscotch thing in my garden and realised I couldn't do it like I used to do it. So I'm going to keep trying with that. But I realised that I don't miss shops. I realise I like online shopping. But I realise more that I can work at home and I can work different technologies. When I deliver my workshops in schools, whether the kids are at home or in school, it's different technologies. It's dealing with different situations, and I can do it. I would have doubted myself this time last year. I've learned how much I love nature and appreciate nature. When you were working and you had travel time, you didn't have the same time to explore your local community, and I've learned so much about the pathways around my local town.
Thanks, Pam. Okay. Michelle.
Thank you. Well, I agree with everything else, although Jamala, I can't do a handstand and I'm not going to try. So well done. A couple of things. One is a business learn, how absolutely awe-inspiring people are when the chips are down and they are facing, you know, something they've never experienced before. We're a port and we were part of a huge national effort to keep food, medical supplies, fuel, everything on the move. So being part of something that's bigger than yourself, I think has been truly humbling. And I think the pandemic has really brought that home to unsung heroes and heroines. I know we've had a lot around the key workers who I'm in awe of, but there are a phenomenal amount, thousands and thousands of men and women behind the scenes who you wouldn't know that have kept the show on the road and have done that, you know, whilst facing very difficult challenges in their home life, ill health, redundancy, loss of jobs. So I've seen the very black side of the pandemic, but I've also seen the humanitarian side, the compassion, the sheer resilience and the determination and spirit that comes when something hits you full on and knocks the stuffing out of you. On a personal level, I've always loved my family and my friends before any job. As much as I love my job, nothing is more important than a human life and love in your life and friends and family. So being able to balance home and life with work has been a transformationally positive experience for me personally. And now I'm able to stay in touch with friends, family, work colleagues, networks online, which I would really have never had the capacity to do in my old life where, you know, I was in the car going to the office and coming home every day. So I think that's been hugely enriching for me.
Thanks, Michelle. And Alethea.
I definitely have to agree that I've finally managed to achieve a healthy work-life balance, which I didn't realize I didn't have until the pandemic, that's for sure. I mean, even like my work setup is in my living room, so I'm looking at it all the time. Even in the evening when you're sort of trying to unwind and watch the television, it's still in the corner of the room and you're still aware that it's there. So I finally managed to sort of detach from that and switch off, take a break and go for a walk at lunchtime. Like Pam was saying, appreciate nature. But finally being able to switch off, not think about work at the weekend, not think about it in the evenings, and just not work over my hours, which is what I was definitely doing beforehand. And yeah, the same, just appreciating family time so much more. I appreciated it obviously beforehand, but it's a whole new level of appreciation when you see them now and not think about work during that time as well. So definitely the work-life balance.
Thank you, Alethea. I'm going to go straight to the questions. There's some fantastic questions here. And the first one I am going to direct to two of you. I'm going to choose Jessica and I'm going to choose Jamala. What is the one thing a mentor has said to you which has had a lasting impact on you and given you confidence to succeed? Jessica, is that a question that you're happy to answer? Thank you.
Yeah, 100%. So I can relay the words of my supervisor here, my current project supervisor, and he said, well, if you fail, just pick yourself up and just have another stab at it, basically. And definitely in science, that is something that you have to bear in mind. If any of you are in a career in science or plan to have a career in science, things usually don't work the first time. This can be applied to many different situations. And if it doesn't work the first time, don't give up. Don't think, okay, this is the end. I'm not cut out for this. I'm not good at this. I've got no hope. Just keep going. Just try again. And by the end of it, you will succeed, and you will have succeeded so much better if you had managed to succeed the first time. So I think that's a bit of advice that I always take with me now, that if it doesn't work the first time, don't be disheartened. Don't lose your confidence. Just go at it even stronger, even harder the next time, and you'll succeed.
Thank you, Jessica, and loads of learning in that process too. Jamala.
Yeah, similar. I feel like I've heard this phrase so many times, but it was when my mentor first said it to me that I was like, oh my God, like it finally just sunk in. So it was my first week as a branch manager. Like I literally just turned 21. Like it was insane. So I'd gone upstairs. The upstairs is the offices with the area directors and the regional managers. And she kind of saw me and saw that I was looking worried. And she looked at me and she was like, are you just waiting for somebody to like tap you on the shoulder and like send you back to where you came from? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And she said to me, what is the worst that could happen? And I sat there and I thought about it, and I gave her answer. She was like, no, the worst that could happen is that you could die. So just appreciate today. You have it. You have this opportunity. And that's it. And then when I actually thought about what the worst that could happen, if I failed this job, I'm still going to be able to do my degree. The worst that gets happen is I'm demoted. I'll be a demoted assistant manager for a bank. At 21, I'm still doing my degree. So it's like, why am I even stressing? But when I get stressed out, I feel under pressure. I always think, what's the worst that can happen? You can die. Are you alive now? Just get on with it. And I feel like when you think that extreme, that's kind of helped me achieve a lot in life.
Thank you, Jamala. The next question I'm going to direct to Michelle, and it comes from Sarah. What advice do you have for people who have trouble networking and reaching out to new people?
Oh, that's a great question. You need to take a deep breath and just take it in baby steps. I've moved around a lot in my life. I've moved jobs and I've moved home environments where I've had to start completely from scratch with no friends, no business contacts, nothing. And you just really have to, I would suggest the first place to start is look at who you're working with and who's closest to you now. You know, be honest and just say, hey, you know, I really would like to meet more people, or I'd like to understand, you know, is there anybody that you know that would be really great to meet that you could introduce me? And you just take it in really bite-sized chunks, you know, and I would say then nurture the contact. I've had a lot of people, you know, I've gone to conferences and people give you a business card and they go, hi, Michelle, nice to meet you. Here's my business card. I'm Shirley or whatever. But really it's forming that relationship and following up and doing it authentically and genuinely because you're curious and you're interested, not because you want something from somebody else. A lot of people network because they want something from you, either business, contacts, money, your whole range of things. My biggest advice would be go in with a curious mind, a genuine warmth and a desire to make friends. And see where it takes you, and start small. Use the people that you trust the most around you. Be honest with them and say, you know, I feel lonely. I want to meet new people. Can you help? That'd be my advice.
Can I just chip in as well about the networking piece? So I agree with everything that Rochelle said in terms of business cards, take the cards, follow up and stuff like that. But I really missed networking with people over the pandemic. And one thing that's helped me and energized me over the last 6 months is an app called Clubhouse. Unfortunately, it's only for iPhone users. But wow, if you're a shy person in terms of meeting people and stuff like that, or you don't know how to kind of correct your posture and stuff like that, it's literally an app where you listen into live people talking and about different interests and stuff like that. You can find absolutely anybody and everybody on there and connect with them and have real deep, meaningful conversations. And just in terms of the network and the relationships that I've built off that app and the potential business partners that I've taken off the app over the last couple of months has just been outstanding. Like I can't think of any platform, even LinkedIn, that has that much traction in terms of actually networking and connecting with people, but for a purpose. Obviously, you're not just there just talking. You can genuinely meet people from all different types of your field. So I'm not sure if anybody else has been on Clubhouse or seen the app, but definitely as a young person, check it out. Be on there, let your voice be heard, practice. Yeah.
Thanks, Jamala. Do you mind just popping that into the chat so that people can see in case they just missed what you said? I think that sounds an amazing tip. Pam, I think you wanted to come in.
I've just got a very little tip. I'm that shy person that doesn't like going to events, but a little tip I learned is if you're that worried, take someone with you. Safety in numbers. Have somebody with you the first time you go who will introduce you to people. But you'll not be the only person that's quiet and a bit worried and a bit insecure when you go there. There'll be others as well. So have a look around and see yourself in others. Somebody standing perhaps at the edge, not speaking to somebody. Go over and speak to them. Chances are they're feeling quite intimidated too, and you'll have a common link. And safety in numbers when you're just learning is good.
Brilliant, thank you. Fantastic advice there from everybody. So I'm going to go to Alethea next, and Sophie has a great question. As a woman, how do you balance coming across positively to people biased against you, if there are any people who are biased against you, and getting your voice heard and respected?
That is a really good question. I've probably got a couple of personal experiences of this, unfortunately. I know in academia, we definitely come across it. You can't really escape it. To get my voice heard as anyone, it's just reaching out as much as you can. So I've tried to do as many conferences and outreach events as possible. And this is where you encounter it. I mean, a classic example is a couple of times I've been introduced at conferences as a woman scientist or a woman PhD student instead of a scientist or a PhD student that's having to be specified. And I've had that a number of times, just as an example. In that, I kind of let it slide the first couple of times, but kind of as you get more confident and you think, gosh, this terminology just really needs to change. I think I went up to the person who introduced me and said, I'm a scientist, not a woman scientist. And they said, oh, didn't even realize I'd done that, sorry. And they wouldn't do it again. I guess it's pointing it out when it happens, because then, yeah, they wouldn't do it again. In some cases, yeah, there could be a bit of a change in tone, but I find I let it slide quite a lot in my first 2 or 3 years. But now I will always pick it up and just hope that it doesn't happen again, or that they learn as well if you pick it up, because often they don't even realize that they're doing it. But that's what I've found quite effective up to this point.
Alethea, thank you very much. I'm sorry that I am really paying attention, but I'm looking at the questions as well, and there's so many of them. There's a question here about barriers, and I am interested in barriers, but actually I'm more interested, because we haven't got much time, in solutions. So the question is around what sort of barriers have you found as a woman in the workplace, and do you have any suggestions for breaking what they call here the glass ceiling? This is an anonymous attendee. Anybody got anything that they'd like to suggest? I'm going to go to Pam first, if that's okay. If that's all right, Pam.
I'm going to be honest and say I haven't come across that many barriers. I've got a good tongue on me now. I never used to. I was very shy, but I found probably a generational thing. When I first started my career, I worked when I was temping. I worked in places where the humour was choice. I got a bit of an education, but it actually gave me a little bit of confidence to be able to communicate with others. And I think one of the key things now is to network with people, to get involved in as much as you can. And gosh, I can't really say enjoy what you do more than anything.
Thank you, Pam. Yeah. There's a question specifically for Jamala here from Sadaf. As a fellow East Londoner, I wanted to ask you, what advice will you give to women from Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities in breaking down barriers and reaching their full potential?
Wow, a great question. Nice to see we've got East London in the building as well, which is great. In terms of advice, I mean, we're lucky in a sense that we live in a city where we're not necessarily that much of a minority. So we are a minority, but the social mobility is a bit better in London than it is in other parts of the country. So you are lucky in that sense. But the reality is that sometimes you have an aspiration, but you'll feel a little bit disheartened just because you don't see somebody in that role, or you don't see somebody who looks like you in those positions. But that's because of the way this society has been built. Times are moving, it's just moving a little bit slower. But in terms of advice that I will give you is, you will find at least 1 or 2 people in that organization. So do connect with them, do network with them. It might help you, it might help with your confidence a little bit. But then if you do have that kind of feeling of, I shouldn't be here, or what if it's not for me, or, you know, but that feeling is kind of nagging at your overriding aspiration to achieve something, go for it. Because what you will do is you will inspire other young people. Because for me, I was the only person that looked like me in that position, which is scary because it's in London and it's in central London and it's a big company. Like, majority of people that bank with this bank in London, like it's diverse. So it doesn't make sense that I'm the only person. But when you do have that goal and you do have that nagging feeling to say, oh, I shouldn't be here, the goal should always override it, because you don't understand the change that you're making. So again, going back to the theme, if you choose to challenge it, then change will happen. now that you're going to be in that position, somebody else is going to see you in that position, and that's how we will create change. But it will be kind of wrong for me to sit here and be like, oh no, you can do it, la la la. There are barriers. Yeah. There is social mobility issues. There is attraction issues, and that is on the corporation's responsibility as well. But put that responsibility on yourself, because if you want to achieve something, guaranteed there's another young girl as well that's maybe 5 years behind you that wants to do the same thing, and you could be that role model. So that's the advice that I'd give you.
Fantastic, Jamala, thank you. Michelle, I'm going to go to you next with a question. Oh, it's gone. Oh, here we are. Do you have any advice for maintaining confidence when working in a male-dominated field?
Oh, where do we start? Because I've been in male-dominated industry all my life. Wow, what a question. I think the advice pretty much reflects Jamala's advice. You know, you have to face your fears and overcome them, because I often think your own worst enemy is what goes on here between your two ears, and those voices in your head that say, you know, you can't, or it's too hard, or it's too challenging. I tend to find if you try and let that go, which is easier said than done, and just think about what you're really, really good at, and not try to take on, you know, the fact that you are maybe one woman. I'm the only female CEO in the entire ports industry in this country. Of 100 ports, there is only me. I'm the only female. I've never really allowed it to get into my psyche. All I've ever tried to do is be really good at my job, and a decent human being, and a good colleague, and a good friend, and someone I hope that can bring, you know, my talents and skills. It is hard in an all-male environment, but I think you just have to stand proud and be confident to not let it bother you. And I remember when I first went to, you know, I've stood up in many hangars in the aviation industry full of avionics engineers, and they're real, you know, rough, tough guys. In Sydney ferries, they used to recruit the staff from the local prison system. So pretty big guys, you know, quite scary. Actually, I've walked into rooms where I've actually been really frightened because they look so intimidating. But I find that, you know, they're just great, you know, and if you can find, you know, a way of just being, you know, true to yourself, try not to let it get into your headspace, because it'll become self-talk. And they're really, you know, some people, you know, are affected by that and others, but I've never allowed that to get into my head. But it's taken me, I can't lie and say I didn't feel uncomfortable when I was younger, going into a room full of men and being the only female and having to deliver some quite difficult messages. It just takes confidence, really, and practice, and don't let doubt drive you. Let your talent come to the fore.
And I think, thank you, Michelle, for that. I think that mentorship is something that can be really, really helpful in almost rehearsing how you're going to manage particular situations. As an introvert myself, and having worked with quite a lot of men over my career as I worked my way up the ladder, I used to be hugely intimidated. But I really loved as well what Jamala said earlier about what's the worst thing that can actually happen. And I quite often say to myself, in an hour, I'll be sitting down having a cup of tea and doing something else. So I sort of block it off and say, this is the hour that I've got to get through. And quite often I come out at the end of it feeling quite happy that I've managed to get through it and learned something about myself and about the people around me as well. Jessica and Alethea, I think I'm going to come to you next. Oh, where have I've lost my questions. Oh, you see, I can't keep track. This is, what advice do you have on what they've called self-promotion? Does it help or hinder, for example, the use of Twitter or LinkedIn? I've gone to Jessica and Alethea because I just want to make sure your voices are heard, but if you don't use those, do just say.
Yeah, so I do use them, and it has been sort of a topic of conversation. I think the last two positions, my position before this one, were quite against it, and before that one they were really for it. So it does sort of vary, but I think it's so important to get your voice out there, get your work out there, And I personally, people have only ever taken an interest, you know, and they're interested in what you're doing. So I'm completely for it. I don't know, Jessica, if you've ever had anything bad said about it?
No, nothing bad. Actually, funny that we're speaking about this because I am quite active on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I like to update about conferences that I go to and things. And I find, especially in the academic world, Twitter is actually a very, very useful way of making contacts and networking. And I was on the phone to my friend last night that I actually did my undergrad with, and she was like, Jessica, I see you everywhere. I see your name pop up at all these conferences. I see you posting on Twitter all the time. You're really getting your name out there. That's so, so good. Good for you. And I was like, are you sure? I wasn't sure if it was a bit too much, like me, like, hello, 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 everywhere. And she says, no, it's only a good thing. And you're going about it in the right way. So I think it depends also how you go about it and how you're shouting about yourself. But every opportunity, we should be shouting about ourselves, girls, honestly. We should be screaming and shouting about what we're achieving and all of our talents. So don't hold back, just go for it, is my opinion.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, I've been given permission to run over by 5 minutes, which is amazing because there are some more questions, but I do appreciate that panel members may need to go elsewhere. So I'm just going to keep going, okay, for another 5 minutes. And I've got a great question here from, without name, what advice do you have for people considering starting again in a new industry? Now, I wonder whether Michelle might be the right person to go to for that one.
Thank you, Ruth, and thanks for the question. I mean, I've changed careers so many times that sometimes people don't understand why. So the advice that I would have is if an opportunity comes up and it's in a completely different career or sector that you haven't experienced before, but you are excited by that industry or that sector or that role, and you want to explore and take the opportunity to learn and do something different, grab the opportunity. Don't let the fact that you might not know all about that industry or job, you might not be a technical expert in that industry or job, that you might not have the experience or the contacts or anything like that. Put that all to one side. Just focus on what's the attractor factor. What is it that's attracting you to do something different? And think about that in terms of, what you're looking for your life. Because a lot of people, including myself, make decisions on changing careers because, it's a promotion, they earn more money, it enables them to, achieve their goals, all of that type of thing. But I would always advise, if you are thinking of doing that, step back and think about your life first. What do I want from my life? Where do I want to live? What do I want to do? What do I want to do with my friends and family? Does this move enable me to improve the quality of my life? Whether that be financially, from a career development perspective, from a lifestyle perspective, from mental health and well-being, and also be pragmatic about it, because when you go into something completely different, a lot of businesses will hire you because of your experience and they want something different. But often when you get into a business, they don't want something different because you might be too challenging for them. But, don't be frightened, don't be scared, accept, be kind to yourself that in the first few months of any new job, in any new industry, you are learning. Give yourself the space to learn. Don't feel under pressure that you have to deliver, performance, and don't have any qualms by saying to people, hi folks, I'm quiet at the moment because I'm listening, I'm learning, I'm going to take the time to really understand what your industry is all about, what this role is all about, what I'm all about. So I'm on and don't have any qualms with saying that for a year or 2 years. I honestly don't believe that anybody can really get their feet bedded into a new job or new industry in the first 6 months. I think it takes you up to 2 years to have a level of comfort if you've made quite a different switch, say from science to law, or from, as you've done, Ruth, from, the health industries, academia. I'm sure everybody's got much better advice than me, but that would be my advice to give.
Thank you, Michelle. There's a question directed to me on the sidebar, so I'm going to answer that, but then I'm going to come to one last question, which I am going to go around the room. And so I'm just letting you know what that question is. And it's about mentorship and how, and I think it will need to be sort of a one sentence answer from each of you, but how has mentorship helped you in your careers or in your life? So I'm going to come to you in a moment. The question that I've got on the side from someone is, Ruth, looking back, is there anything you now know that you wish you'd known when you first went back to Robert Gordon University to study? I actually went there to work, but I studied there too. And I think I want to pick up on a couple of threads from the conversation that we've had here today. And I think the biggest thing for me is about taking myself to work and not being afraid to be me at work. And I've already referred to the fact that I'm an introvert and shy. And I found that really difficult until I somehow let something go. And actually, to go back to what Michelle said, it was actually moving to a completely different organization where I took a conscious decision to do that. And then something inside me was released that enabled me to feel much more confident about myself. And I think, of course, you always look back and wish you were more confident when you were younger. I really wish I had, and I wish I'd understood my potential at that time. Not in an arrogant way, but in a way that would have prevented me from being anxious and worried about how other people saw me. So if you're feeling any of those things, I would just try your best to be in touch with people who will support you and help you to be the best person you can be and to know that about yourself. So just time for one sentence from each of you on how mentorship has helped you. And I will start with Alethea.
So for sure, throughout my PhD in particular, I suffered from terrible imposter syndrome. Probably still have a degree of it now, but it was awful throughout that period of time. And it can, I mean, you can have some considerable lows because of that, especially, yeah, going back to the confidence side of things. So my mentor, I'd say that I had a couple of mentors during that time who sort of really, supported me, guided me through what I needed to do, let me just talk and actually just listen to me was huge and really helped me. But just, help build me up, help make me more confident and just make me, sort of help believe in myself a little bit more. It's just really nice having that support throughout my PhD especially.
Thanks, Alethea. Jessica.
Yeah, I have to completely agree with Alethea. Without mentorship, I think you can get very inside your head and start to doubt yourself. And I think sometimes it takes someone else saying, no, you do have this, you've completely got this, you're achieving so much. And then you take a step back and you think, okay, yeah, actually, when I reflect, I've done so much. I am great. I am amazing. So sometimes it shouldn't be this way, but sometimes it just takes someone else to say, you've got this. And then you actually begin to believe it. So that's why I think mentorship can be really important.
Thank you, Jessica. Pam.
Spot on answers there. I've been a mentor. I've been a mentee several times. I've often talked to colleagues informally and felt that they've mentored me. But sometimes talking and having somebody that actually listens, makes a difference. They help you take that step back. They motivate you. They challenge you. They make you think. They provide support. And sometimes, a little bit of coaching is what's needed. Make yourself think outside the box a little bit. But yeah, mentor, I couldn't have been without mine.
Thanks, Pam. Michelle.
I can't ever tell you how important mentorship is. I'll never find the words to explain how vital mentors are, and they come in all shapes and sizes. It can be your brother, your sister, your wife, your husband, your child. Mentors don't have to be in the business world. They are people that help you navigate your way through life, help you discover who you are, help you come to terms with the good and bad things that you have to face in life, and also understand what your skills and your development areas are too. And they are kind people that give you honest feedback and observations and help you sometimes face up to the things that you don't want to accept in order to help you become a better version of who you are, and help you to learn every single day. Because I do think that, learning is one of the greatest human gifts. And I think, you keep learning from the day you're born till the day you die. So mentors for me are just earth angels, and are here to help you, you know, live the fullest life you can, and they're there to pick you up and help you when things fall apart, because things do fall apart in life. And if you haven't got a mentor there to help you, it can sink you. So I would say some of my mentors have actually probably salvaged, you know, large parts of my life that I would have never come to terms with if I'd not had them by my side. So if you can get a mentor, find them, because they're gold dust.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm not sure whether Jamala's still here. I will just check. Oh yes, you are, Jamala. It's just I couldn't see you.
I can't put my camera on because I'm literally like running to get a train. But I will chip in quickly. Similar to what you guys have said, it's just in terms of helping me navigate a situation or get from A to B. So like if you want to get from where you are now to where you want to go, essentially you can wing it and find your direction that way. But mentors just make that task a lot easier. So it's like putting the postcode in a sat nav or in a GPS and getting a direction. So just an easier kind of route, essentially, because that person's already taken that route. Those are the mentors that I kind of have, or essentially like a ladder. You get to kind of just see above where you are right now, if that makes sense.
It really does, Jamala, and thank you so much for sticking with us as you've gone to get a train. It's so much appreciated. Okay, everyone, I'm so sorry, but we've come to the end of our session. And I'm not just saying this, but this has been a hugely uplifting session for me today. I have thoroughly enjoyed listening to you all. Thank you to the audience for the fantastic questions, and sorry that we didn't get through absolutely everything there, but I hope that you got enough of them answered to feel that you got a really strong flavour of these amazing women. Could you, if you have the time, please complete an evaluation, because we do want to know how this worked for you. It's a different way of doing things. So I'm going to say thank you very much to the audience for being here, and then a massive thank you to all of you for being here. And I'm sure if everybody was in the room, we'd have a massive round of applause. Thank you again. Have a fantastic rest of your day, everybody. And I'll hopefully see the mentors soon in some other forum. Bye for now, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.